Today marks a pretty special occasion for this channel. This is actually the 100th video I've recorded, so I thought to celebrate we could go to one of my favorite greenhouses and do some shopping. So let's head out. What's up, fellow plant enthusiasts? My name is Dylan and this is Bane's Botanicals. Today we're doing a little plant shopping here at Suburban Lawn and Garden in Lenexa, Kansas. This is one of my favorite places to go just because they have such a big variety of plants. I'm hoping we can find a Kintia palm today. We can see what other kind of cool things we can find. So yeah, let's get started. The first thing I noticed when we walk in here is this beautiful Bismarckia palm. I would love a palm like this, but they're really not good for indoors, and most of the time you find them, they are gigantic, but still really cool. Let's head in. What I like to do when I come to places like this is just pick a corner and start, because usually they have things kind of scattered everywhere. It's a little organized, but it's nice just to see what you can find. So the first thing I stumbled across was this really big musa, this banana tree. It could maybe get this big if you left it on your patio, but inside they probably won't get this big. And then we have a nice big wall here of bird of paradise, Strelitzia. There's probably some different ones. Normally the ones you find sold in places like this are white and orange, and the orange ones are the only ones that really flower indoors. To get the white ones to flower, you really need to have like a greenhouse or an arboretum. Back here we have a really big red musa, and you can see that it's got these gorgeous red undersides on the leaves, and the trunk of that thing is so thick. I'm not really sure what somebody would do with this in Kansas, but it's still cool to see one. Here we have a pretty good assortment of succulents and cacti, and if you really want a bigger cactus, a greenhouse is a good place to come to just because they have such a good variety. You see we have a pretty big Opuntia here. This one looks pretty dangerous just because of all the spines. We've got a good sized aloe here. Here's a good crassula, the jade plant. And on these it's cool because you can actually see that they start to become woody, and you can see that secondary growth, and honestly I just kind of like touching them just to have them move. We also have, looks like some type of Cereus cactus here. A euphorbia. I don't think this is crown of thorns, but I'm pretty sure this is a type of euphorbia. Back in the back there, that looks like a pachypodium, which is the Madagascar palm. It's got a really cool spiny trunk with like the white shade to it and the leaves at the top. Very cool plant. And like I said in my video, they do get really big. And I just realized I walked into a cactus. It's okay. So here's kind of a cool one. This one corkscrews. I'm actually not sure which one this is. Well, the tag just says cactus, but it's fine. Here we have a pencil cactus. This is actually a euphorbia. And what else do we got? Here's another really good sized aloe. I actually have this agave, and I swear, I think I've hurt myself on agave more than any other plant that I own just because of how sharp these spines are. I mean, here's a really neat, I'm guessing this is some type of euphorbia just because of the leaves. Here we have a really big pencil cactus, and as I said earlier, this is a euphorbia. The thing you have to be careful about these is that they do have a thick latex sap on the inside, so if you break one of these off, please be careful because it is known to be a skin irritant. And then I also saw this really bushy Ripsalis. Now Ripsalis is another type of jungle succulent. I can't remember if it's an actual cactus or not, but you normally don't see them this big, so it's pretty cool to see it like this. So here is another good example of the crassula that's gotten a lot bigger, so that you can start to see that it is getting that secondary growth on it. And it's almost just like a miniature bush, but it's succulent. And when you touch these, you can just tell how thick and like full of water they are. I actually have this exact species at my house. Hopefully mine gets this big someday, but right now it's probably only about like that. So I'm excited to see how big it gets. A table of succulents like this is a great place to find a mystery succulent that you may never have heard of. Now, most of them aren't actually going to be labeled with what they are, but this is why some plant apps are good to try to find out what it is. I did notice that we have some of these that are actually spray painted. This is not a natural color. I don't know why they do this, but that's really irritating. Here we have a couple of different jungle cacti. This one is epiphyllum, also known as the orchid cactus, and this one is an Easter cactus, but the actual genus name is sort of in flux right now. Some people say it's Schlumbergera, some people say that it's Ripsalidopsis. I think I've also heard it called Hatoria. But right now this one is in full bloom because we are in the spring season, and it is beautiful. Here we have an assortment of air plants. Really, these only come in a couple of different shapes that you see most often. We have kind of this more rounded one, and then we have one that kind of sticks up more like grass. Now, air plants are really cool because they don't actually need to be in soil. They can just kind of sit on the shelf, and as long as you mist them maybe once a week, give them a good soak maybe once a month, they should be fine. They are Tillandsia, which is kind of a branch of bromeliads, meaning these will flower eventually, and as with most bromeliads, once they flower, they put off pups and the mother plant kind of dies. But they are a cool plant to have. These are some of my favorite plants. This is ficus, and I just love ficus because there is so much variety within the genus, and most of them turn into trees. Here is a beautiful Ficus altissima. We have that nice kind of green variegation on the margin there. We also have a couple of different Ficus elasticas. This is a ruby with a beautiful pink on it, and this is a newer one called the Cheveriana that has just kind of those speckled dark greens on that yellow leaf. What else do we have? Here's a nice variegated Ficus benjamina. I want to say that, which one is this? Well, I forget what it's called, but we also have another variegated Ficus benjamina, but this one has the green variegation, which is a little less common. So here we have one of the more difficult ficuses to take care of. This is Ficus triangularis, especially the variegated one. As beautiful as it is with those triangular leaves and that white variegation, it's really tricky to get the care right for this. And I have tried several times, so I'm not going to let myself do it again. What else do we have here? This is, which one is this? Oh, this is actually I think this is a Ficus Ali, just because of these long leaves. That's a pretty big giveaway, but normally you don't see them this small. When I find Ficus Ali, they're usually already kind of tree-sized, so it's kind of neat to find one this size, but I probably don't need it, even though it is really unique. I don't know. We'll see. This is a less common ficus. This is Ficus cyanthistipula, I believe is what it's called. It's got these really kind of elongated, fatter leaves than the Ficus Ali. I've never really seen one bigger than this. The company that makes these is called Proven Winners, and they're really good about releasing less common plants, not just for ficus, but many other genera as well. And I also noticed this beautiful Ficus elastica. This is the white variegated one. I believe it's Taniki. I've always loved these. I'm not sure why I don't have one, but I think it's just because I opted for the regular burgundy. But this is a gorgeous plant. And one last entry, we also have the Ficus umbellata. I don't know a ton about these other than every time I see them, they don't look very healthy. Even these look just a little bit yellow. And I just don't think they're easy to take care of because the leaves on these things are paper thin. And typically the thinner the leaf, the more susceptible it is to drying out and just having problems. So as beautiful as it is, I'm gonna go ahead and pass on this one. Here we have a big table of snake plants, now Dracaena, formerly known as Sansevieria. And this is probably the easiest plant you can actually own. They are so hardy, they barely need water, they can withstand variable light. And I did notice that this particular one, which is a pretty cool shape, is actually flowering. And you can see that the flowers are on a bract. I just thought that was pretty cool, but I already have a Sansevieria, so I probably don't need to buy another one. Here's a pretty good sized Schefflera here. There's really only two species of Schefflera that you often see as houseplants. This is the bigger leafed one. There's also a smaller leafed one, which I'm sure they have, but I don't see here. And I'm also noticing some really beautiful Syngoniums here. Syngoniums are very easy to take care of and they're really easy to propagate. And there are so many different colors. This one has some nice pink in it. These are actually almost white. But I've noticed that they are actually mixed in right now with Alocasia, which has similarly shaped leaves, kind of an arrowhead. Not all of them have that leaf shape. Here's one that's more solid and round. Alocasias just have a tendency to be kind of difficult to take care of. Not impossible, but some of them are just so beautiful, it's hard to resist. But I'm going to resist. And then I'm looking back here and we have a huge assortment of philodendrons. And there is a philodendron for everybody. I would venture to say that almost every plant owner has at least one philodendron because look at the variety. There are so many different colors and leaf shapes, vining and self-heading and climbing. I mean, look at this one. Look at this big silver sword philodendron. I mean, it is gigantic. What is the price on this, I wonder? I'm sure it's a couple hundred. It's $300, but it's like 30% off. That's actually not bad, but we're not gonna get this. I don't think it would even fit in my car. As we continue back, we start to notice things like prints of orange. I mean, some of these have the brand new leaf coming in on them. That's that beautiful bright orange. I'm noticing what might be, is this a Florida green? I don't think that's a Florida green. I wouldn't mind finding a Florida ghost, but I haven't found one yet. I noticed this plant was sitting in front of the philodendron sign, but this is actually a Rhaphidophora, specifically Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, also known as the mini monstera, which we can see why because it does have leaves that look similar to that of a Monstera deliciosa. And speaking of monsteras, we have a table right here that has a few different ones on it. We have the classic Monstera adansonii, which is the Swiss cheese plant. We have a nice Monstera Peru here, which is one of my favorites just because of those deeply textured leaves. We have a Monstera deliciosa, which get gigantic. And I also noticed there is a Monstera esquilado, which has these really big fenestrations in the leaves. These tend to be a little more expensive, but you can see why. It is just a really gorgeous plant. So when it comes to Aglaonema, the Chinese evergreen, the greener they are, the easier they are to take care of. So we have one that has the red margins here, and then we have one that has a lot of really beautiful hot pink colors here. These tend to just be a little harder to take care of because they can't photosynthesize as well. Most of the ones I see in retail do start to fail sooner than the green ones. But I did find this beautiful one. Now, you guys let me know which one this is because it is beautiful. I mean, just look at the coloration on those leaves. It's almost like camouflage. I want to say this might actually be called camouflage, but don't quote me on that. My goal for today is to try to find a Kentia palm, which is Hawea. I haven't been able to find one yet, and I really want to do a video about it. Oh, here's some cool stuff we can talk about. So here's some plants that we haven't really talked about yet just because they're not super mainstream. Here is an actual coffee plant. This would in the wild produce coffee beans. This is Coffea arabica. They do tend to need pretty consistent moisture and a decent amount of humidity just because of the jungle environment that they grow in. We also have a common one that you see around spring. This is oxalis. Oxalis is really pretty. It's also called the false shamrock. And as you can see, this one is flowering. And they do fold down when it gets nighttime. You can kind of see that this one is actually folded down a little bit. But they come in a purple variety as well. And the only problem with oxalis is that they do go into a really hard dormancy in the wintertime to the point where you might actually lose all of the foliage, but it is still alive. And then lastly, we have a Fatsia japonica. This is also called the true Aralia. This is a relative to like Schefflera. It's also kind of a relative to Hedera, the English ivy. And it is gorgeous. Like they have some really cool patterns on them and just the leaf shape is amazing. But this is an Aralia plant, so it is going to be extremely prone to spider mites and pests. So just kind of use some caution if you do pick one of these up. And then finally, this isn't necessarily an indoor plant, but you can keep them indoors sometimes. This is a jasmine. This is a true jasmine, and you can see that there is actually one tiny little flower, and it is just probably the most beautiful smelling flower you'll ever smell. Gardenia is a close rival, but I think this is still my favorite. I've got a little one in my house right now. I'm getting ready to put it out on my patio. Hopefully I can get a lot of good flowers off of it this year. All right, we have reached our goal. Now here are the palm trees, and as you can see, palm trees are often sold in pretty big sizes. That's because most people that buy these buy them for their tropical nature, so they want to stick them in the corner of a big room, maybe stick them on a patio outside. Me personally, I'm looking for something that's a little more medium-sized. So for finding a Kintia palm, that can be really difficult because I really don't want something that's going to be gigantic. But I can at least point out a couple of different things here. This one with the really fine leaves on it is actually a phoenix palm. And you can see that it has a pretty thick trunk. It's also called a date palm, compared to most of these here that have these really big, they're not fronds, but these compound leaves. This is Ravinia, the majesty palm. And then down here we have, this is just a dipsis. This is the cat palm, or Erica palm. And I also noticed back here we have a fishtail palm, and we can kind of see why it's called a fishtail palm just because of these leaves. Oh, the genus name is escaping me. But I would like a fishtail palm, but again, most of the ones I've seen are just so big. And speaking of cool palms, I found this Livistonia. This is also called the Chinese fan palm, and you can see that it has kind of these beautiful fan-shaped leaves on it. And behind me, I actually found, this is a Washingtonia. I don't see these a lot just because they're not really indoor plants. This is something that really needs to be outside, either in the ground or on a patio, just because of how big the leaves are. They really just need a lot of light, but man, they are gorgeous. So we did find a Kintia palm. This is a Hawea. Unfortunately, look at the size of it. I mean, I couldn't get this in my car if I wanted to. It's $200, which is not an unreasonable price for a Kintia palm just because they are a little harder to find and they are very sought after. Like I said, unfortunately, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get it just because it's too big, but hopefully somewhere along my travels, I'll find a smaller one. All right, so unfortunately we didn't find that palm, or I guess we did, but it's just way too big for me to bring home. But I did go to another greenhouse on my way home, and I picked up a couple of smaller plants that I figured I'd share with you guys. I did grab this marble queen pothos, and I already have a few epipremnum, but I mean, look at how pretty this is. Like the white on it is just so striking. I don't think it's quite a snow queen because there is still some green in it. They did have some snow queens for sale, but they were a little more expensive than I was actually wanting to spend. And this one looks pretty good just by itself. I also picked up this Peperomia polybatria, the raindrop peperomia. We just did the peperomia video recently, and I was just thinking about this. And even though I know it might not work out, I still wanted to try it again just because I love the leaves on this thing. I just love how green and waxy they are, and just that shape. I mean, just look at the shape of those leaves. I mean, it's just amazing. But the problem that I have with these is that typically they start to come in kind of weird, but hopefully this one does better. So yeah, you guys, I can't believe it's been 100 videos. That's kind of crazy to me. I mean, I guess we're coming up on a year since I started this channel, but thank you guys so much. I can't say that enough just because I have enjoyed interacting with you guys for the past 100 videos, and I'm looking forward to 100 more. There's still so many things I want to cover. There's still so many things I want to do, and I hope that you guys stick around for the journey because I've really loved every minute of this. So thank you so much. I couldn't do this without you, and until the next video, I will see you guys very soon. Thank you.